Welcome to this week's piece. This is just a crib that I picked up off of Marketplace. When I try and find cribs, which is not frequently because I only do them for myself or family for obvious reasons, I try and find a piece that has a solid back. This one has a 3-paneled back, which I'm fine with. They're a huge pain with all the slats everywhere, so this way it gives me at least some part of it that I know is going to be fun for me to do. So obviously this needed a good cleaning, and then I'm giving it a scuff sand, and then it'll have to be wiped back again. I'm going to be doing decoupage in the back of this, so I just left it white because I would have painted it white anyways to have the paper pop out, so that's what I'm doing here. I just left this, and then I'm kind of figuring out the placement. When I ordered these papers, I already had the crib, so I knew what size paper I needed for this one, so that was kind of convenient. Usually I'll just order kind of a set of larger papers because typically I do dressers and things like that need a larger paper, but because I knew the size of this panel, I knew the size of the paper that I needed, and I could kind of get going. Now, I can't reach anything right now because I have this huge baby sticking out, and I messed up the paper here. I was so frustrated, and then I have to try and move around these tiny sections, and I tore it, and a lot of times if I tear, it's not a big deal. I can fix it. This was not the case. This was one of the thinnest papers that I picked up, so that part's destroyed. I hung it out to dry because I can use parts of it on something else, but that one paper for this specific project is just... it's ruined. So once that happened, I realized that I needed to come around the back where I had a little more room to reach, and just worked. It's kind of hard being able to, you know, how you get so used to working in a certain way, and then now I have this thing in front of me that prevents me from doing things the way that I could typically do them. Anyways, so I'm laying down poly. I always use polyacrylic or whatever kind of water-based sealer that I have. That's what I apply decoupage papers with. I do a base down. I'll do like just a section of it, and then you can watch me applying the papers. This is a soft synthetic bristle brush, and I add more poly on top to squish it down. So I'm taking a little more time with this one because it has kind of like that beadboard look, and I want to make sure that I get that paper pushed down into those little crevices as much as possible. It's not going to be perfect because then that could run the risk of tearing the paper because this is so thin. But if you had like one of the thicker papers, or if you had one of the kind of more fabric-y ones, you could get it all the way situated down in the lines. This one I'm actually just going to do multiple coats of poly over the top to give it a lot of strength. And it'll be kind of set down as much as possible. But so yeah, this is easy peasy. It gives you a great base. I kind of knew where I was headed with this in the first place, so it was nice to get this on here. And then I feel like once I have the papers on, it helps me figure out what direction I'm going to go with the rest of the piece. So I know that I want to, the overall crib is going to be pink, but this back section, I always want it to stand out more than the rest of the crib. And because all the slats and everything are so much work, you want that to be as simple as possible. So that's why I can kind of like amp up everything on this back. So I have out this really dark blue. This is only going to be a base for the gold, because if I did gold directly over the white, I wanted it to be a little bit richer and a little bit deeper. So that's why I did the dark blue. The dark blue ties in with the paper, so on and so forth. I hope that makes sense. I chose the dark blue to go under here because I wanted the gold to be richer and go with the papers a little bit better. So anywhere that you see gold on this crib, I did this base of blue first. And then because this paper is so dark, I wanted to have that same like deep, rich blue base around everything else. And then I can always change it up if I need to, but it will just kind of help me see the paper sitting in that darkness and know what I need to do to kind of make it come to life around everything. So here we go in with the gold. I just did the one layer of blue because I just needed a base layer. That's it. It doesn't matter that it's splotchy. This gold covers fairly well. I needed 2 coats of this gold to have it fully covered. And then I did the same thing on the legs of this as well. There's, you know, the 4 tiny little turned legs on this. I did the exact same thing. Now for the rest of the crib, I'm just going to go in with my first coat of this very soft, it's like a baby pink, it's called Petal Pink. It's lovely. It dries a teeny tiny bit darker than what it looks like in the jar. So I'm going around doing the base coat now because I know I'm going to need 2 coats. That way this can be drying, and if I get any of the blue or anything else on the pink, it's not a big deal because it's going to have a whole other layer of pink. But that way it gets my base coat down and allows it time to dry before I have to do the next coat. And I'll kind of just keep working back and forth. And then towards the end, I'll end up with like a tiny detail brush touching up anything that I have contaminated with other colors of paint. Now for the bottom part of the paper, I initially was going in, and usually I will just do some color blending in. I don't try and mimic the paper too much. I like just a little bit like subtle hints of mimic, but I don't need it to be perfect. But this I was like, oh, we'll just carry down the stairs. And so that was the direction I started going in, where I'm doing like a base coat of the gray. You can still have like hints of the blue coming through because there's a lot of blue in this. And then I'm adding a bit of orange in, which seems strange, but there's orange in the steps so that you could see that. And so I'm kind of getting that swirly action, and I really liked the way that looked, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to do like the highlights and shadows for stairs. And so you'll see that happen. But then I realized these are all going to be covered by the mattress. So you will never see them. So instead, once I get the stairs like partially on there, and I realized I kind of like the way that it looked all swirly better anyways, and you will never see the stairs because they will be covered. So I did that work, but then, you know, I went back and changed it. Now for the other 2 side panels, I knew these were going to be blended, and that's kind of the route that I wanted to take on them. So I started with just a really fair white. I ended up adding a touch of the pink because you can see a lot of the creaminess. There's a lot of like these soft pinks inside her gown. And so all I'm doing is pulling similar colors from the left of the picture over into the right side panel. And then I'll do the same on the left side panel as well. So the left side panel is quite a bit darker and the right side is quite a bit lighter just because of how the color placement is in the actual image. So I'm just it doesn't have to be a perfect match. What's great about this is it has like those little gold, almost pillars, it looks like to me. in between that breaks it up quite a bit. And so I've got this lovely like painterly image in the center, and then these swirly, awesome blends going on next to them. And so these don't have to be perfect on the first round, but because I have that base of blue, I actually won't have to go with 2 rounds of blends. So this is all just going to be that base of blue. It seems silly to have it down, but it's really nice because it gives like this depth of color underneath the lighter colors that match the image. So I'm using the same brush to start from the white to the pink, and then I just added that. It's the very, very dark blue. I added that, and as I'm swirling with everything, it lightens it up substantially. And I'll keep going down. It'll get darker and darker, and it looks a little bit messy. But then towards the end, I'm going to grab a larger clean brush and finish swirling it out to get the blend where I want it to be. Now in the image, you can see like they have these really ornate walls with gold going up these blue walls, and I just think it's so beautiful. So I thought to kind of mimic that almost, I'm taking this like Baroque stencil, and I'm just going to stencil down this panel, and I'll do the same to the other side as well, just to tie that in. And oh man, I love it so, so much. I actually want to try this again just over dark blue on something else, but keep the blue that really flat matte color that it is, and then have the gold be this bright shining gold that it is. It didn't stay this way on the crib, obviously, because I wanted to seal it with a very kind of glossy sealer so that it's easy to clean because it's a crib. But I think it would just look so cool to have like that matte blue with this stark bright shining gold over the top of it. Oh man. And it just looks lovely over everything. You guys know I'm in love with gilding. Anything that is bright and shiny is just, it makes my heart happy. Oh, I do want to say that I used a sea sponge for this instead of my typical like stippling with a brush or rolling it with a foam roller, because I wanted it to have a bit more texture, and I loved the way that that turned out. And then I'm just going back in with that same top coat that I used before to seal everything in. So yeah, this is just, I'm just time-lapsing through this because sanding all of this and painting all of this, it's just that one solid color pink is not pleasant to do or watch for the amount of time that it takes. So that's where we're at with this. So now I can go in with my second coat of the pink and clean up anything that I got around the edges, like some gold smeared up, some blue smeared up. All of that is going to be covered now with the second coat of pink, which is great. And then I don't remember if I show it or not, but I have a teeny tiny detail brush that I take and go down in between on the underside of the top rail there, just to make sure those are covered with the pink as well. It's just a little too hard with those thick brushes, trying to get them in between and not, get pink paint on that. And since the center sections have all been sealed with poly, anywhere I get this pink, I can now wipe it back with a damp cloth if I get a spot on there that I don't want. That is fully protected. So here, to seal the rest of the crib, I actually made like a pearly pink top coat. So I just take this was like the seashell metallic that I use from Rust-Oleum, and I had a bit of red metallic from Modern Masters, and I mix those together just to get the pink that I wanted, and then I just add a ton of my regular top coat so that it's just a sheer coverage, and that way it still holds the pink color. It's not coating anything, but it gives it like just this nice little satiny shine, and it's so pretty and lovely. And I feel like it's better than just a solid pink plain everywhere, and it doesn't have me doing too much more work than just applying a regular top coat. You do have to work a little more carefully with this because anything that is metallic, of course, it leaves like streaks and stuff. It's not perfectly clear, so you can still see lines in it. So I'm using a foam brush to apply this so it doesn't leave like brush marks. And then I might actually go in later. I didn't show it in this video because I'm still deciding, but I might do like more of the sea sponge with another like round of this to add texture and more dimension, because this has a subtle tint and it will build up a little bit. So that might be something that I do in the future, but I'm undecided as of yet, and I still have a couple months to get this done. Obviously, I'm going to get it done sooner so it can be fully dried and protected and have its 30 days to cure before a baby gets put in it, but these are just thoughts that I have as I'm working. And I'm only sharing them because I want you to know that I have them. Like, I mess up quite a bit. I just have these random thoughts of things that I might do or want to do, and they just run around and around in circles until I decide on what's going to happen. Oh hi, Taryn and Lucas here with Elegant Upgrades, and we've got our finished crib. So, I know what you might be thinking, but it's not this one's. This is actually for my niece, who is due around the same time, just like I want to say like a week or two before. So we're gonna have lots of babies happening in my family. We're very excited about it. And I only do cribs for my nieces, nephews, and my own because these slats are the worst. It's like doing dining room chairs, which again, I don't do unless it is necessary and for myself or something like that where I need it, because it's just too much work. It's not worth it. Now, I will say, if this was in warmer weather and I could set up my spray tent, I would have sprayed this whole thing and it wouldn't have been such an ordeal. But because it is cold and I can't spray, hand painting and hand sanding and hand everything, all of these is not pleasant. But I do love doing the backgrounds on them. That's why I always try and find the full back cribs. That way I can do something fun and fantastical. And this one is so beautiful. Their theme is like Disney princesses, and this paper is called Late for the Ball, which is just perfect. And I just was like, oh man, we're gonna make it so fancy. So this is for my little niece, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. You can obviously apply all of this stuff to a dresser, a desk, or whatever. It doesn't have to be this. So anyways, I hope you gained some inspiration, and thank you all so much. I will see you next time.